Clock is ticking, so I want to open it up to the audience and see questions that we have. I know this isn't a shy group. Come on. Yes. And if you can say your name and where you're from.
Stand up. Okay. Hi, I'm Keith Mahoney. I'm with the Boston Foundation. And this is a question for Chris. So we have an indicators project, and we've had it for a while, and we've kind of shifted from big data dump reports to more curated, topical things on, here's something you don't know about the local opioid crisis or criminal justice reform. And in doing so, we've relied on our social channels and then on earned media to get that message out. What you've done with the trends seems to be even a further step along there that brings in, I don't want to say opinion journalism, but it kind of gets closer to a Atlantic or some guide like that, whereas we're sort of here are just the facts, we're non-partial, we just want to give the information out there. Mm-hmm. How have you navigated that as you've worked on the project?
You're asking about the difference between an opinion and a point of view. And I would say a couple of things. We've thought deeply about that. And I think that where we've landed is that if you were looking for a section in your daily paper to liken our approach in our magazine to, and you would probably find it in the Metro columnist. The person who's writing includes original reporting and also reflection and thoughtfulness, and it is presented in the news pages rather than on the opinion pages. And we're doing that because we don't. We are not partisan, but we also are not without a point of view. And our point of view is a vision for a more equitable future. We're not neutral on the fact that some people go without enough food. Yeah. We're not neutral on the fact that some people can't afford rent. We're not neutral on discrimination, on down the line. And so that is something that I even learned on the journalism side. When I was a reporter, I loved, one time I heard someone say, the truth doesn't stand on the 50-yard line between what he said and what she said. And so in pursuing journalism, you are pursuing truth. You are raising the facts. And the additional layer that we're bringing to this is a lens that at the end of the day, this ought to be a community where everyone here can thrive. Mm-hmm. So, if we're going to get pushback about that, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to what Grant was saying, right, about the. I think the Solutions Fund, though, I know it's separate, but I think that's really interesting what you guys are doing with the Solutions Fund and funding, actual ideas that come out of it, right?
As we're conceiving it right now, I'm thinking of it as an accelerant to the community's broad response. It's Marshall Gans says that information doesn't. The power differential is not an information problem; it's a power problem, right? So it's naive to think that just supplying the community with data is going to change the reality, but if you are able to combine some enterprise reporting and add the accelerant of all of the things that a community foundation can help with, from convening to grants, either both to get stories out or to catalyze change, advocacy, some community organizing, there's different ways that you can accelerate the community response and sort of get the fence sitters to go ahead and jump in.
Yeah. I saw a question over here.
I'm Brian Boyle with Issue Media Group out of Detroit. This might be a question for the Knight Foundation, sure. But I would think the work of community foundations, fundamental what you're trying to accomplish is increase community attachment. And I'm kind of reflecting back on Soul of the Community.
Yeah.
And intellectually you would think that as media contracts and evolves to the click model, right, the disinvestment in investigative, solutions-oriented reporting, narrative reporting, you would think has a fundamental disconnection of community. Right,
and I'm wondering, investments have a disconnection
as media evolves, right, and the types of news it's reporting on now fundamentally disconnects people from the community, right? I'm curious, is there research that can prove that out? right? If research existed that showed the evolution of local media is disconnecting people from community, and there needs to be a response, do you think it would arm community foundations and local advocates with more ammunition to kind of pursue the right work?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely there is research, and I know Lindsay, you're nodding your head, so you can jump in. I mean, I think that we are going to actually do another Soul of the Community, which will look at the information piece within the communities too, and attachment to community. So Soul of the Community looks at what are the key indicators for community members attaching to their community, and it's a partnership between Knight and Gallup. We're going to do it in all 26 Knight cities, including Detroit. And so there's that. I think, Lindsay, why don't you jump in and with some of what you think is some of the most important research that touches upon this.
Sure.
And introduce yourself, sorry.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I do strategy and research on the impact of media and work with funders like Knight and others that support journalism and social change communications groups. I would just say, yes, there's a lot of research that shows that the lack of local news, especially explanatory reporting and investigative reporting, leads to disconnect among community, but also has all kinds of other adverse effects also in terms of the economics of local policies, local politics, accountability, actual economic costs in local communities. So you can make arguments to people's heads, to people's hearts, to whatever is going to work, that having more local reporting is good for communities kind of across the board. There's also a lot of research that shows different types of engaged journalism and the different types of trust that it can build both between organizations and communities and within and among communities. I'm happy to chat afterwards and start to point. And I should say Media Impact Funders has lots of resources on their sites too about different types of research that's available there.
Vince, do you want to jump in? Sorry, I didn't see you back there. You're hiding. Yeah. Vince is a great resource, Media Impact Funders.
And it's greater still, because we just relaunched our website. Media Impact Funders or Media Funders will get you there. And we've also surfaced a lot of the impact work to really pull it forward. And we just had a newsletter go out, redubbing it as Tracking Media Impact, which is TMI. But anyway, I don't know if we'll stick with that. Anyway.
Thank you. Vince. Question here.
Hi, I'm Marcia Parker. I'm the publisher of Cal Matters, a state news nonprofit in California. I've been working a lot with Mauricio. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all you guys for helping make this conversation happen. I think it's really important. And I'm going to ask, I'll make a request too. I think one of the things that we can do as this conversation opens is if you guys can also convene your people, right, like your networks, to keep making this conversation grow, because it's a big part of what I think we're starting to do as journalists, and our news organizations are starting to do more things that we didn't used to do before, big convenings on topics. And as we do big projects, we're really doing more community building in a way, even though we have to stop at a certain, there's a line there. So anyway, I just feel like the conversation's developing all over America, and it's a wonderful feeling. It's certainly happening in California. Mauricio is really helping us with that. But I do think that there's a lot of room for taking the collaborations to the next level, and that actually engages the people that you reach. And I think that's really an important part of our work.
There's a huge fear factor, to be honest, because if you're not in this space, how do you even frame it so that people understand it? And but knowing that a lot of markets are facing both an information crisis and a local journalism crisis, community foundations are all about getting in the middle of crises and trying to solve for them. So, and it's an economic development aspect, there's an education aspect, so it makes so much sense. Yeah. But I think it's this moment in time that we all have to rally around and do the work now. Yeah. Because hopefully we're not gonna have this chance again. Yeah.
Yeah, Mauricio.
Yeah.
Well said.
Over the course of time, and Marcia reminded me of this, one of the things that I've learned is that there is a tension between the local, the regional, and the national in terms of a very basic question of what is more important to invest in. I've been told by some community partners at the national level that it's best for us to invest in large national media structures and programming that will impact a larger number of people. And that for us to invest in small, local, more experimental type of outfits might not necessarily be a good investment. And we come from the point of view that maybe that latter argument is inconsistent with what community foundations are all about. We should be experimenting locally. We should be taking risks and asking questions that invite solutions that have not been tested locally. And one of the great examples of how the tension can become an opportunity is what Cal Matters does in California. We had a gathering with nonprofit organizations that have their investments within the community foundation to build their endowment. They come together on an annual basis and wanted to take a look at the issue of housing, particularly because nonprofit organizations have staff that are resident in our community who are dealing with the challenges of housing and transportation. And also nonprofit organizations as renters themselves are also dealing with the question of where do we house our operations in our community. Yeah. So Cal Matters had done extensive work on the electoral process and the issue of housing as it appeared in the electoral process. And they were able to bring a journalist, their executive director, facilitator, a panel discussion, and a partner of theirs in a county that's within our vicinity, San Benito County, had developed a tool with the support of the local community foundation. It's actually a digital media outlet, Benito Link. They joined the conversation, and together they demonstrated that there is an opportunity for you to be able to develop regional infrastructure with journalists that are covering state issues, so on and so forth, and having a conversation with local journalists that are receiving support from this regional infrastructure. So trying to separate them, I think, is inconsistent also with what's actually going on. We're much more dynamic and fluid and continuously are sharing information. So just wanted to put that out there, that sometimes I approach this question of local versus national or regional with a lot of questions, because I feel that we're trying to create something that's artificial in terms of what the reality looks like in our region.
Yeah, and as Alberto said this morning, there's a strength in local, and local leads to trust. There's a strength in local, and local leads to trust. I love that. Questions, more questions? Yes. You can, I think you can just, yeah.
Hi, I'm Erica with Open News. We're an organization that supports technologists within journalism. And I'm really curious about this topic around collaboration and acceleration. Yeah. And so a lot of the conversation has been about getting information out and the role of relating with journalists in that. I'm curious about opportunities for bringing the information back into your other grantees and how to show that like the reporting that is being done, it can be actionable and influential. And just curious about like there have been some examples already stated, but like if there are other examples or if that is a compelling way to talk about the role of journalism in terms of bringing the like reporting and data analysis into nonprofits so then they can act on that information and it can inform their work. So just
great question.
Curious about that.
I would say that the person right behind you, John Funibiki, can provide, from a strategic point of view, how we're looking at collaboration in our region. It's not just about journalists and philanthropists coming together or journalists coming together, but what is the role of nonprofit organizations that are part of the Community Foundation Network and beyond in the process of building a collaboration. Just about a week or so ago, we came together to look at goals for 2019, and this was an issue that we are looking at. So internally, to answer your question, we're working with John to figure out how do we organize and curate conversations, intentional conversations between journalists and nonprofit organizations around issue areas. However, the collaborative is focused on the issue of housing. So John can tell you what they've done, wonderful work of bringing together both sectors to have conversations about solution in the Bay Area. And John is right there. So I don't wanna push it, but I think that he has more examples to share with you.
John is an expert, and I don't want to put Marcel on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. I also think that you have a great example of a journalism collaborative in Long Beach, and how listen, you don't have to. I mean, I just wanted to connect you guys, and how you had this collaborative focused on an issue, and a lot of that was actually getting that information to grantees in your community and to the people that are working on the specific topic. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or if you wanted to highlight that.
Is this on?
You can.
Is this on?
Just real quick, when we did the collaboration, and thanks to the Knight Foundation for helping us fund that, it was around, we worked with Solutions Journalism and really looked at kind of what the issues were in the community, and there were quite a few, but the one that bubbled to the surface was the digital divide, and that 17% of households in Long Beach didn't have access to the internet, whether it was economic or structural or otherwise. And fast forward through the collaboration, they really blitzed the community online and in all the different print and online media publications. But what happened was they won 2 CNPA awards for their coverage, California Newspaper Publishers Association, and most importantly, locally, City Council got their attention, and they started to take action on it, which really mattered. And so they're going to look at homelessness and housing, which Mauricio and I have talked about, and that's really exciting as well. So
great, thank you.
I don't know if part of the answer to this question too is there needs to be some relationship building between the nonprofit community and the local journalism community, because I think often nonprofit organizations from where I sit are not valued as sources or experts in the community, and they can't get anyone to write on the issues. There hasn't been a story about literacy in Cleveland in 10 years.
Wow, yeah.
And it's an epidemic, right? So resources are scarce on both sides of the equation. So how can each be a source to the other, I guess?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Building on that, we also had the opportunity, as Long Beach did as well, to participate in the implementation of the On the Table experiment funded by the Knight Foundation. And that became a wonderful platform to have journalists sit in conversations with community leaders, not as journalists. In other words, not there to take notes on what everyone else is saying, but to be engaged in conversations from the point of view of being a resident in the community and elevating the storytelling to a whole different level, one that could put out of the sight the role of the journalist. Of course, you cannot divorce one from the other, but to the relationship building point, that worked really well, and it continues to be a strategy that we have used so as to look at other issues that can be organized in the same way.
And just a shameless plug for On the Table. If you're interested in learning more, you're welcome to talk to me about it. But we also have Rick in the room who has been a really important consultant for the On the Table initiative, and is also helping to build out the national network for folks that are outside of night cities. If you want to be able to plug in and pull this off in your community, talk to him. I saw one other hand. Yes. Okay. Go ahead. And then this is the last question, so make it a good one.
Okay. I don't know about that. I'm Dave Vincent from
No pressure.
From Gulf Coast Community Foundation. How do you address the different age groups when you're looking at all these issues you're talking about? Do you look at a person who's 20, 25, how they're going to consume this information? Someone 60, 65 or older? How do you do that? Because you've got a wide audience there.
Right. The focus groups that we did in both communities represented different ages, different perspectives, different income, different races. And so as we think about implementing the recommendations in the research, we're mindful that not everyone consumes their news in the same way. So what may work in one specific neighborhood is not going to work for a generation that gets their news on YouTube, as we learned this morning. So you have to be able to segment Fortunately, I feel like as a community foundation, we're always out there raising dollars, and so we know how to segment audiences. So how do you do the same thing when it comes to information? And so that's part of it. And I think there are some fascinating nonprofit journalism models that are answering that very question, so we're looking at those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we have one more. Okay, Ben's.
I just wanted to respond to Marcia's point earlier when she said that we should be continuing to meet, and so that is part of our role, and we are going to be convening journalism funders, something we do annually in a different city. This year it's going to be in San Francisco, first week of October. Stay tuned for more logistical details, but we definitely see that as our role in working with Knight to bring people together, especially the community foundations we're interested in.
Perfect. So funders that are interested in learning more about how to do this, that are interested in getting tactical and understanding how do we invest in the information needs in our community, Media Impact Funders convening is a great way to do that. And Michael, you were there.
One of my quotes is from there.
Yes, yes. One of the quotes was from there. Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mauricio, Chris, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.